Hello, I made myself some new sprites, yay. Little cat dragon looking thing. In today's video, I'm going to be scouring the internet for every single Aroace spectrum label in existence. Obviously, it's impossible to find them all, and I won't actually be going over every Aroace spectrum label that's been created. I will, however, find as many as possible. First up is Asexual, definitely one of, if not the most well-known label in the Aroace community. This label is often shortened to Ace. Asexual is described as the absence of sexual attraction. A sadly common misconception about asexual people is that they are all Shreks repulsed, which is a stereotype. This is not true for every asexual. In fact, anyone can feel repulsed towards sex. Some allosexual people may feel repulsed by sex. Allosexual experience sexual attraction and to the quote-unquote typical amount. Next up is Aromantic, often shortened to Aro. Aromantic is the romantic counterpart of asexual, being described as the absence of romantic attraction. Now with both of these labels, we can cover the combination of the two, Aroace. This one is kind of self-explanatory, the label being a combination of the shortened versions of Aromantic and asexual, Aroace. Aroace is the lack of romantic and sexual attraction. Some people who are active in the Aroace community may be wondering why they don't recognize this alternate Aroace flag, and that's because the previous orange, white, and blue flag has a problematic creator. Besides, I find the new one prettier. Next up is Greysexual, or Grey-ace. Greysexual can be described as only occasionally feeling sexual attraction or feeling weak sexual attraction, or maybe both combined depending on the person. And of course, we have the counterpart, Greyromantic or Grey-aro. Greyromantic means rare romantic attraction, weak romantic attraction, or both weak and rare romantic attraction. The combination of Greysexual and Greyromantic is called Grey-aroace or Grey-aroace, which results in several different combinations of the different types of Greysexual and Greyromantic. A few examples could be someone who experiences rare sexual attraction but weak romantic attraction all the time, or someone who experiences both weak sexual and romantic attraction. Next up is Demisexual, sometimes shortened to Demi-ace. Demisexual is described as only being able to feel sexual attraction to people you have strong emotional bonds with. These strong bonds often take months or even years to form depending on the person. And a demisexual may have a strong bond with someone, but still not feel sexual attraction towards them. Being demisexual doesn't mean anyone you have a strong bond with you'll be sexually attracted to. Also, this bond does not necessarily have to be romantic. The strong bond can be platonic, romantic, etc. Next up is Demiromantic. Same things go for Demiromantic, only romantically attracted when a strong bond is formed. But a strong bond doesn't automatically mean romantic attraction, and the strong bond is usually platonic, but not always. The combination of demisexual and demiromantic is called Demi and Demi-aroace. You've reached the first milestone. Those were the most common labels in the Aroace community, so the next ones are less well known. But before that, I want to talk about the different types of attraction, since sexual, romantic, and platonic attraction aren't the only types of attraction. Attraction that isn't sexual or romantic is considered a tertiary attraction. Platonic is actually a type of tertiary attraction, it's just the most well known. Under the attraction umbrella, we have physical and emotional attraction. Under the emotional attraction label, we have romantic, platonic, queer platonic, and alterous attraction. Queer platonic is described as being somewhere in between romantic and platonic attraction, while alterous attraction is a bit more vague. For some who use this label, they may describe their attraction as being between platonic and romantic, but some may view their alterous attraction as completely separate from both platonic and romantic. Under the physical attraction umbrella, we have sexual, sensual, and aesthetic attraction. Sensual attraction is basically attraction involving the senses. This attraction isn't inherently sexual, as there are non-sexual types of affection like hugging and kissing. Aesthetic attraction is also not inherently sexual, since you can find the way someone looks nice or aesthetically pleasing without being sexually attracted to them. Sticking to the tertiary attraction subject, we move on to oriented Aroace. Oriented Aroace is described as someone who is Aroace but experiences tertiary attraction they feel is significant enough to label alongside being Aroace. For example, an Aroace person may identify as gay and oriented Aroace if they feel significant queer platonic and sensual attraction towards masculine and neutral aligned people. Next on the list is angled Aroace, which is similar to oriented Aroace but is not intended for people who are exclusively Aroace. Angled Aroace means someone who is on both the Aro and Ace-spec and also specifies what gender or genders they are attracted to. For example, an angled Aroace person could be someone who identifies as asexual, Demiromantic, and panromantic. They are angled Aroace because they specified that they are panromantic. Next up is Ace-flux. Ace-flux is described as fluctuating through different asexual spectrum labels. For example, someone who identifies as Ace-flux may be strongly asexual one day, but be demisexual the next. Some people may rapidly fluctuate through the asexual spectrum while others may take a while. The aromantic counterpart is Aro-flux, which is fluctuating through different Aro spectrum identities. Speaking of fluctuating sexuality, next up is Abrosexual. Abrosexual is described as fluctuating in sexuality, so they could be pansexual for a certain amount of time, and then bisexual for a while, and then asexual. The amount of time they are each sexuality depends on the person. Even though abrosexual isn't exclusively in the asexual spectrum like Ace-flux, it is still on the asexual spectrum. The aromantic equivalent is Abroromantic, the fluctuating of romantic attraction. So, I couldn't find any Abro-aroace flags, so I made my own. Next up is Ace-spike. Ace-spike is described as typically being asexual, but having sudden, random, and short-lasting spikes of near or complete allosexuality before returning to the usual amount of little to no sexual attraction. An Ace-spike's counterpart is Aro-spike. And the last section for this video is going to be Ace-jump, Aro-jump, and Aroace-jump. Ace-jump is typically being allosexual, but have occasional, sudden, and short-lasting periods of being asexual before returning to one's typical amount of sexual attraction. Holy moly, that was a lot of work. And that's not even all the stuff I want to go over. However, it was still a lot of fun and helpful to go through all these labels again. It actually helped me a bit with my own identity, hee. I want to go ahead and clarify that I know that most of these labels have been simplified. Also, just because a label fits you doesn't mean you have to use it. If you like a label that only fits a little, use it anyway. If you don't want labels, then don't use labels. It's your choice what to do with your labels. That's all for today. Bye guys.